The Joe Rogan Experience.
I don't know if he does it as much or as often as I do, but because I do the clubs, I have a philosophy about what's required to develop great stand-up, that you have to do a lot of sets. You have to do a lot of numbers, a lot of different places, different environments, and I found that out the hard way through my best performances and my less good performances, like what was missing and what did I gain.
This, I think, is a sort of an interesting debate. I don't know if it's in stand-up world at large, but it's certainly something I've thought about a lot. Is like that. As soon as I was able to have an audience that would come and see me, I was like, I'm out. Thank you, God. I'm not putting myself through that shit ever again.
Doug Stanhope feels the same way, by the way.
Does
he's one of the best ever.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's absolutely fantastic. I completely agree. And because I thought, because what I feel like is that the comedy club environment warps your material because you've got to appeal to them. And I think you ain't the fucking arbiters of truth, you drunk, crazy 2 a.m. motherfuckers. So I get, I perform, what I'll do is and what I'm doing, say at the moment, is I'll book the UCB or places 100, 200, or go Largo, or put on events, and I'm doing events while I'm in LA because I think, these people come and they love me and they bring me beads and here's some vegan cookies. And
you got to come to the Comedy Store, man, and go on after Joey Diaz.
Fuck you! Because I feel like I like a nurturing environment going in there. I mean, because I've done that. I've done those fucking clubs, and and even Comedy Store and late at night Comedy Store in LA, as well as London. And I feel like, oh Jesus, thank God, I don't have to. So I'm interested. To you, that's part of that. What I think some people could reductively refer to as machismo in you, like that you go, no, I'm going in there.
Well, you know what it is? It's that guy that mounted you and went for the armbar and you escaped.
Right.
It's worth it because it was hard. You realize if a child got on top of you and went for an armbar and you escaped, you'd feel nothing. So when you're at Largo, you're performing for children. You're doing child stand-up.
Oh, no.
It's like you're wrestling with 100-pound women who just started yesterday.
It's like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Go on, Russell, then. Tell us your stories.
Yes.
Well, if you noticed.
Amazing.
Oh, bravo.
You're wonderful. We brought you flowers.
So well. Thank you, children. But look, the counter-argument to that is that therefore I'm in an environment that is sympathetic and it is my audience, and I'm not biasing. The idea of overcoming a greater obstacle, I completely appreciate what you're saying. But say you believe in the purity of stand-up as being some real expression of yourself, as in the arrow hitting the bullseye. I feel like I have a vision of what I'm trying to achieve, and increasingly it's becoming about, I want my stand-up, I want to hang on, as I've always done, stories where I feel embarrassed and humiliated, but I want to hang off it ruminations on what I believe to be the nature of truth, and I want people to come out of those things feeling loved, validated, accepted, and that they're good enough and that they can explore themselves. That's
so it's more of a one-man show.
In a sense, it's that, but I don't want to sacrifice the laughs. Do you know what I mean? I love the laughs. The laughs, where we're at. That's.
But you don't
given.
have to sacrifice in a one-man show. I mean, you can certainly do a one-man show that'd be really funny.
But say you start going into, that's what I'm doing, and I'm sort of I'm trying to build things like around 12 steps and trying to doing things that people have some takeaway value from. Now, trying to develop that after Joey Diaz in the store.
It's not going to happen.
There's going to be some resistance.
Are you aware of Hannah Gadsby and the controversy of this?
What do you think about
thing
that?
In the net? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, nor
I still
have I
say
actually,
I'm going to see it, but
because the end of comedy and all that kind of thing.
It's silly. It's no end of comedy. But what she's doing, people like. And there's
What
nothing wrong. I don't know. You call it whatever you want. Sometimes it's funny. I mean, maybe it's stand-up comedy.
Some
maybe
of my mates watched it and they told me towards
comedy.
the end it became a sort of quite aggressive towards the audience.
It became like a TED Talk almost, I guess, apparently.
I'm interested in, there's enough room for everyone to do whatever they're doing. But at the beginning of my, let's call it career, I used to not prepare at all. I was still drinking and using. I'd go up on stage, I'd chop shit up, I'd get into confrontate, when I say chop shit up, I'd take up animal parts that I'd got from butchers, like a skull with all meat and stuff and sinew on it, chop it up, throw in the audience, release locusts, get into confrontations and exactly. The reaction you're having is the reaction they were having. So some of the front row, I had fights. I've got scars on my body from bad stand-up gigs, from a time where I got into a confrontation. I was making a point about pedophilia, saying, we're all one cultural mind, so when a particular paedophile has transgressed against a child, we're all responsible. People you're like, what the fuck? and I
that's a tough sell.
I got the shit kicked out. Well, that time, I've still got the scar on my leg. That happened in Edinburgh in Scotland. People didn't take it well. But what I was trying to do was like create. I didn't have the skills, the chops, the experience, the jokes. So I was so under-equipped. But like what I was trying to do was create environments that felt, I'm much better at doing that now. I can create that kind of an uncertainty in a room, a kind of a sense of chaos and what's happening, and then bring it back, I hope, to a humorous conclusion where people feel safe and amused and all of that kind of stuff. Now, I think it's, you can't, because I did try and do that in comedy clubs, and it was confrontational. It's not what people want. So don't you think that by prepping your stand-up in those environments, that it biases you towards a type of stand-up comedy that is limited?
No, because you can do that other stuff too. You could always perform to your crowd, and you could always expand on things to your crowd. But to really put it together without any fluff, without any nonsense, without being self-indulgent, with respecting the attention span of the audience that may or may not even be there to see you. Most likely is not. If you go to a comedy club and there's a large, if you go to the Comedy Store any night of the week, there's 15 plus people on the marquee or on the list, and the show starts at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. depending on the night, and it goes to 2 o'clock in the morning. And, you catch waves in there, and there's different types of comedy. And in that, you're going to deal with sometimes tired audiences, sometimes enthusiastic people. It's all different. It varies widely. And I think that in doing that, you cut all the nonsense out of your act, and you develop economy of words. You understand how to captivate people's attention and keep them engaged, and to respect their time, respect their point of view, respect that these people have an attention span. They want to be engaged in the best possible way that you can do it. And sometimes you develop that through these really difficult sets, or or distracted people and drunks and all that stuff. You can develop those qualities. You're always going to have your crowd, and your crowd, I mean, if you have this vision of how you want to put things together, you can put that kind of thing together at a comedy club. You're doing it in these 15-minute chunks. You just have to figure out a way to grab them and make them really interested in what you have to say.
You're right, because there's obviously in like the Comedy Store, between the hours you just described, there's a contract. We ain't here to see you. We're here to laugh every 15 seconds. And like, comics like Robin Williams or Chappelle's the all-time greats. They go in and accept those conditions. Yeah. And you've seen stuff, I'm sure, like of Robin Williams. He's just like walking around in the crowd in that very room. Yeah. It's like he's doing the thing I'm talking about, and he's doing it there. That's when you think, if like, I suppose I do get that you're road testing it to its durability to an incredible degree if you can pull it off there.
Yeah, well, think about every time you're saying something. When you have a subject, like say if you want to do, you want to talk about the mentors that you have in life, it's an open-ended approach. You have no idea what the correct way to say something is. You try it. You write it out. You say, this seems feasible. Let me try it this way. And oftentimes people never correct it, or they never adjust it. They never go back and improve it. They just say it in a certain way and figure out how to do it. When you're doing it in front of a crowd, you're developing these things while also feeling the way people are reacting to them and feeling their attention span. And it makes you, with proper reflection and truly objective listening to your material, it makes you change and shift and adjust things hopefully in a positive way. And the more you do it, the more you get a sense of maybe this is clunky here, and maybe I figure out a better way to say it. And
I agree, but the counter argument could be that it could bias you to a sort of a lowest common denominator area. Say with that bit where you talk about the sun, and it's you need it, it's trying to kill you, it gives you cancer.
Right.
Like something like what was the journey of that bit of stand-up? Is it like for me, it's like, I think of a thought, I try and make sure there's a tag so I know where I'm going when I'm out there, and then it's a comparable process to yours. You're trying your best to get rid of fluff or whatever. So can you recall like what it's like? Are you night after night going in with new bits of material packaged within things that you're a little more confident in?
Yeah, and I put that bit on a special. I can do it better now. I know a better way to do it, and that's part of the problem with doing bits. It's like sometimes you release them on a special, you have a better version of it now. my point of that was to a perspective enhancer, to let people know that bit was about, like, understand what's happening here. You are literally floating in infinity, and it's almost never discussed. You're hurling through forever. There's a fireball in the sky. It's 1,000,000 times bigger than Earth. If you stare at it, you'll go blind. It's trying to give you cancer, and if it's not there, you get sad. Like, you live in a dream. Like, this is madness. Your life is madness.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. But there's something about that particular way of because I figured out a way to express it in short doses, in short bursts. If you stare at it, you'll go blind. It's trying to give you cancer, and if it's not there, you get sad. So in that short burst, like, it's, like, wow, yeah, that is all those things are true. Like, this is crazy. There really is a fireball floating in the sky, and we're just used to it. We live because of a floating 1,000,000 times bigger than the Earth fireball. And when you say, if you can say something like that and make someone laugh, you can actually change the way they look at things. You can actually affect, at least, the way they look at things. If you just say something, sometimes it's profound, sometimes it registers, but if you could say something and it forces someone to laugh, even if they disagree with you, if they're laughing, like, I don't even fucking agree with this, but holy shit, this is funny. You put that thought deep into someone's head, and you allow them to think about your thought process and how your creative process and what you're doing to sort of bring these things out.
Yes, I like the way you describe the architecture of that. You've got to basically have, these are some facts about the sun that are irrefutable. Yeah. Now here is how that affects the way we look at the world and exposes to us that we're just ignorant. We're not awake to reality. We can't hold reality in our minds because it's too vast to handle. I like it, and I agree with you that that with laughter comes access to kind of deeper truths. And I've heard some therapists, in fact, say that that laughter is to shame what grief is to sadness, that laughter is helping to expel shame and to process shame, that there's something very important about people coming together and laughing together. And I like to exist comedically in a world where it's like starts from a deeply personal perspective and admissions and acknowledgements of humiliation and shame and vulnerability, and travels out to the universal and hopefully archetypal, that you can sort of travel between those points. A comedian that I think we both admire, Bill Hicks, what I think is fascinating is because, if you've loved Bill Hicks for a long while, then you discover, man, that guy worked material a lot. You go, I watched this interview of him on the Australian TV. He's doing like a bit that I've seen him do, in multiple incarnations. But I have also seen him do interviews where he's spontaneously talking about gigs, terrible gigs that have gone badly, and he is hilarious. But it's very interesting to me, and perhaps it's because of that background and that practice of doing clubs, that Hicks is very much a comedian that's, no, I'm drilling this fucking thing and I'm staying with it.
No, he was a writer. I mean, he did ad-lib, and he was capable of going on these rants, spontaneous rants, but he was a writer. He wrote these things out, and he was aiming to have an impact with his commentary. I mean, that was what he was doing. He was not just trying to make you laugh. He was aiming to enhance your perspective on whatever he was talking about.
Yeah, and seems very disciplined as a practitioner of it.